Hi everyone. I think everyone is gradually coming into the virtual room. Numbers ticking up nicely. So thank you very much for joining us. Really looking forward to today's session, and we'll get things started as soon as we get everyone in.
I think we have about 100 participants so far, which is wonderful.
It really is fantastic. Absolutely. So, bearing in mind, we've got a really interesting and I think probably relevant to lots of us in all walks of life. Really interesting talk ahead of us. We'll get things started, and I'm sure more people will join us over the course of the next few minutes as well. But hi everyone. For those that don't know me, my name is Professor Nick Wilton. I am the Dean of Oxford Brookes Business School here at Oxford Brookes University, and it's my absolute pleasure to welcome you all here for today's alumni webinar with Johnny J. Pawlik, a member of the class of 2010, a graduate in, I will get this the wrong way around, communication, media and culture from the what is now Arts, Humanities and Social Science faculty. So welcome, Johnny, and thank you so much for your time today, talking on a really, as I say, very interesting topic. So before I pass over to Johnny, I'll just do a bit of background. Johnny's been involved in an awful lot of activities and achieved an awful lot since he left Oxford Brookes 14 or 15 years ago, but I'll do as a best job as I possibly can in terms of introducing him. So Johnny is an award-winning communication expert based in Yorkshire and Kyoto. He's been featured in many international media, including Forbes, the Asahi Shimbun, and Good Morning Britain. He's given many interviews on the BBC discussing business, psychology, and leadership, and is listed in this year's 2024's 42 Under 42. So we're very, very lucky to have Johnny speaking with us. I did pick out on his information sheet that is one interesting or little-known fact about the speaker, that he spent a week working with Jennifer Lawrence and James McAvoy on the film X-Men First Class. He doesn't say which X-Man he was, but I know will let us know during the course of the next hour. I could say an awful lot more about Johnny, but I'm sure he'll sort of perhaps reflect on some of his experiences and so on over the course of the next half an hour or so. If you do have any questions for Johnny, and I'm sure many of you will, please do use the Q&A function in the chat. I will field those questions and pick those up at the end of Johnny's talk. So, over to you, Johnny.
Thank you so much, Nick. Welcome, everyone. It's a joy to be able to deliver this talk to you today. The title of this talk is How to Give Yourself Permission to Be the Best Version of You. I'm passionate about acceptance and curiosity because everything we achieve comes from a place of performing at the level of the best version of ourselves. We aren't born with who we are and what works for us. Self-doubt. One of the greatest challenges when we misalign reality with low self-esteem is imposter syndrome. That nagging feeling that we don't belong, that we aren't good enough, that at any moment someone will find us out. What if I told you that the very things that make you doubt yourself, your intelligence, your sensitivity, your compassion, are actually your superpowers? Today, we'll explore navigating imposter syndrome, avoiding burnout, building self-esteem, and aligning your values, because being the best version of you isn't about being perfect. It's about being real. This is an interactive talk because I want you to engage with the concepts so that you can recognize the impact that an internal dissonant dialogue can have on your well-being. This way, you'll be able to spot it quickly in the future. Please have a pen and notepad ready because there'll be key phrases that are useful for you when you're managing you. By the end of this lecture, you will have practical strategies to help you move forward with confidence and clarity. Let's begin. What is imposter syndrome? Imposter syndrome is the belief that we are not as competent as others perceive us to be. It affects high-achieving individuals, making them attribute their successes to luck rather than skill. The prevalence of the syndrome can exponentially increase in correlation to the factors from, say, less than favorable conditions in childhood, from economic factors to education and familial networks. Symptoms include feeling like a fraud despite evidence of success. Can you think of one incident where this may have occurred? Fear of being exposed as incompetent. Have you ever walked in a room you wanted to enter and felt like you weren't good enough to being it? Dismissing praise or downplaying achievements. That amazing thing that everyone tells you is amazing. Have you appreciated it the way you would if someone else had achieved the very same thing? It's important to recognize that imposter syndrome isn't the truth. It's a distorted perception of reality. Understanding it is the first step to overcoming it. You deserve success. And today we'll explore how to truly own it, because you deserve to be the best version of you. Where does imposter syndrome come from? Well, it can stem from upbringing. If you were praised for being naturally smart rather than for effort, you might struggle with setbacks. I'm going to say this again because it may resonate with many of you. If you were praised for being naturally smart rather than for effort, you might struggle with setback. Perfectionism. If you set unrealistically high standards, anything less than perfection feels like failure. Could it be possible to set the bar at a high standard that isn't perfection? High achievers often create parameters for happiness that are awkwardly conditional. When I have that car, that house, that yacht, or partner, I will then be happy. The happiest people I know experience joy in the present. Let's create the conditions for happiness to be more attainable, easier to attain. How about the phrase, every day above ground is a good day? Remember, you are in control of you. Comparison culture, social media and competitive environments often make us feel like we're failing behind, even though the cultural and economic factors surrounding us have an overwhelmingly strong correlation with where we are. And that often has nothing to do with who we are. Fear of failure, the belief that failure defines you rather than being a stepping stone to growth. What you may sometimes perceive as failure, other people see as an opportunity to grow and learn. Understanding these roots allows us to shift our perspective. Instead of seeing imposter syndrome as an obstacle, we can see it as a sign of growth. If you feel imposter syndrome, it means you're pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone. And that's a good thing. You're creating an environment for personal growth. If you experience imposter syndrome, you're not alone. Even the most successful people in the world have felt it. A few years ago, I spent time with an entrepreneur who was on his way to becoming a billionaire. Sometimes he couldn't even attend entrepreneurial events because he felt like he didn't belong, even though, by all the standard capitalist measures of success, he was the most successful person in the room. So here's how to navigate imposter syndrome. Reframe your thoughts. Replace "I'm not good enough" with "I am learning and growing." Progress, not perfection. Perfectionism fuels imposter syndrome. Progress is what matters. Seek feedback. Instead of fearing criticism, embrace it as a tool for growth. Feedback is a reflection of a task and an output, not you personally. Remind yourself of facts. Keep a journal of your achievements to counter self-doubt. Make it easier to be mindful of the good things, because our brains are wired to worry due to self-preservation, and this can create unhelpful thinking. The goal is to shift from self-doubt to self-acceptance. When you challenge imposter thoughts, you create space for your true potential. Self-acceptance is an outcome from good self-esteem. Let's explore this. One way to prevent imposter syndrome is to build our self-esteem. This is the secret sauce that affects all of our decision making. When our self-esteem is strong, we do what we want to do on our own terms and respect our own boundaries. When our self-esteem is low, the opposite happens. Self-esteem is built through action, not just thoughts. Strategies include do the right thing for the right reasons at the right time in the right way. Think less, do more. Self-esteem grows through experience. Focus on the present moment, not the past, because you can't return to the past and the future is unwritten. Celebrate progress, not perfection. Surround yourself with people who uplift you. Operatively choose to be with people who celebrate, not belittle, who are relational, not transactional. Confidence is an output or externalized effect of good self-esteem. Confidence is not about feeling ready. It's about acting despite self-doubt. If you already feel ready, perhaps you're not stretching yourself enough to enjoy the growth you deserve. The more you step outside your comfort zone, the stronger your self-esteem becomes. A little further outside of your comfort zone each day. Perfectionism. This is the enemy of progress. Done is better than perfect. Planning is essential to success and may get you to where you want to be quicker, but over-planning prevents progress. You have to move to get from where you are now to where you want to be. Everyone who's achieved something you admire has had to take consistent action to get there. Planning creates the path. Action creates the outcome. Reframe your mindset. Instead of it must be flawless, say it must be functional. Instead of I must never fail, say every failure teaches me. Instead of I have to be the best, say I have to be my best. Perfection prevents progress. Embrace imperfection and watch your confidence soar. When you take action, it's important to recognize that feedback is part of the process towards growth. Whether it's feedback in the form of the outcome, doing this didn't achieve that, or someone responding to this suggesting you try something different. If we accept that progress is a journey and no one arrives perfect, we can more easily embrace feedback. Feedback is a gift, not a threat. Learning is useful. If you have ever studied a language, even your own mother tongue, you'll recognize that feedback is useful. It helps us to be more effective, to find shorter routes to certain outcomes, and give us alternative processes to achieve what we desire. When you avoid feedback, you delay progress. You prevent you from learning and getting to where you deserve to be. Shift your perspective. Seek feedback proactively. It clarifies your strengths and growth areas. Enjoy being told you're wrong, because that's when real learning happens. Repetition builds mastery. Keep redefining and refining. Keep growing. Remember, what others think about you is none of your business. What you think about you is what matters. You can become your greatest advocate. If this is the life we have been gifted, let's enjoy the process of living it. Competence v confidence. One of the biggest challenges in our society is that often the most knowledgeable person in the room is the quietest, and the least knowledgeable, the loudest. As a general rule, this is because the more you know what you don't know, and this can lower your level of confidence. The opposite is also true. The less you know about what you don't know, and therefore the more confident you are about what you do know. This can lead to the most competent people deferring decision-making to the least competent people in the room, because they rationalize that the confidence they perceive must mean that they know even more than they do. Competence is how good you are. Confidence is how good you think you are. Many brilliant people lack confidence, not competence. Confidence grows when you take action. Stop waiting to feel ready. Start now, and confidence will follow. The signs of burnout. Burnout is a form of chronic stress that depletes your energy and passion. It can demotivate you to the point of being unable to enjoy the activities you once found fulfilling. The physical effects of this compound over time, creating a problematic mindset. Burnout can stop you from having firm boundaries about who you are and what's important to you. It can make you susceptible to the needs and wants of others without recognizing what works for you. Signs include physical exhaustion and lack of motivation, increased cynicism or detachment, feeling ineffective no matter how much you achieve. Burnout is common in high achievers who push themselves relentlessly, aim to be lazy, find the most efficient way to succeed. Productivity isn't about doing more, it's about doing what matters sustainably. Remember that rest is productive too. A well-rested brain is better equipped to concentrate on tasks, process information, and make rational choices, all of which ultimately lead to increased productivity. Exercise temperance in all things, even the activities you're passionate about. Burnout can sometimes occur because we don't realize that our strengths can also be our weaknesses. Intelligent, you may overthink. This can stop you from moving forward because there's an infinite amount of variables between where you are now and where you want to be. Caring, you may feel guilty easily. It's important to set firm boundaries with your family and friends. People that love you may not even consider that you're giving more to them than is sustainable. Let people know what you can do for them on your terms, and don't let others use your superpower for their own selfish means. You deserve to give only what you choose to give. Passionate, you may burn out. I love my work, and that makes me vulnerable to overwork. I love solving problems, particularly challenging ones, and that can be unhelpful because it means I don't perceive my work as work. I enjoy the process to the point of exhaustion. This is why we must set parameters around your superpowers so that they don't also become our kryptonite. To thrive, you must manage your superpowers, or they will manage you. To be the best version of you, you must align your values. We ask ourselves questions constantly. Most of what takes up our progress of thinking, our internal monologue, is asking questions. The challenge that many of us face is the quality of our questions. Here are some important questions to consider when thinking about your values. Ask yourself, what truly matters to me? Consider every area of your life. When do I feel most fulfilled? What activities, both personally and professionally, make you feel the most fulfilled? What principles guide my decisions? Be honest with yourself. Remember, this isn't about hiding. It's about being real and honest with yourself. Accept you for who you are today and keep moving forward. When you live in accordance with your values, you experience inner peace and confidence. Your values become your compass, helping you navigate self-doubt and external pressures. Knowing your values enables you to do what works for you on your terms. Everyone deserves to be the best version of themselves. You are responsible for you, no one else. The only person's thoughts and actions you're ultimately in control of are you. So you can only ever be truly responsible for you and how you show up in the world. There's only one of you, and there will only ever be one of you. So being the best version of you has value, not only for yourself, but also to the world around you. Acceptance is the key. It is the foundation to many schools of thought, intellectual, philosophical, and spiritual. In my opinion, it is the most important word we have access to because it is alive in the present moment in which we perpetually exist. Whatever perceivable challenges we may or may not face in the process of living, acceptance creates the conditions for us to be unstuck and move towards the world we envision for ourselves. Let's explore the most powerful areas for us to enjoy acceptance. Many people struggle to accept who they authentically are. Reality, when it doesn't match their expectations, their immense potential. Without acceptance, we become lost, anxious, or distracted. Acceptance sets you free. It helps us to exist in the perpetual present with a sense of comfort and confidence. Language shapes our reality. It's why some people feel like they have nothing when they have everything, and others feel like they have everything when they have nothing. The condition of your existence, the material things you enjoy, the warmth, food, and comfort you enjoy, becomes immaterial if your use of language is undirected. This is why people can find themselves in patterns of feeling lack, no matter what they achieve. Your words are your thoughts, and your thoughts create your feelings, and your feelings impact your health. Choose words that create fun, happiness, passion, and fulfillment. Guess what happens? Your thoughts change, so your feelings change, and your body listens. We are often taught unhelpful language patterns and phrases that create cages for our capacity to feel joy. Use words that liberate, not imprison. Say, I choose to, instead of I have to. Stop apologizing unless you've truly done something wrong, knowingly. Ask, don't assume. Curiosity unlocks clarity. If you have a vision for the person you wish to become, I imagine they will behave and respond in a certain way. Those behaviors will be created by certain patterns of thought, and those thoughts will be created through the language you choose to use. Words influence thoughts. Choose yours wisely. Remember, in the present moment, life is a journey that you ultimately take alone. You are responsible for you, your happiness, your well-being, and the way you treat fellow humans. You deserve to be the best version of you on your terms. Build an existence you can ultimately be proud of. We all have the potential to do this, regardless of the time we're limited to. So who am I? About 25 years ago, I saw the internet as the diversification of voice and as an opportunity to achieve what at the time seemed unattainable. I grew up on a council estate in a rundown ex-mining town in the East Midlands called Mansfield. From a challenging background economically, where violence was normalised, trauma an accepted part of childhood, and expectations from my teachers that were so low, in primary school I was put in the special needs class because I was from the rough estate. I'm now able to talk to you because I accepted that I couldn't change. I accepted what I couldn't change and concentrated on the one thing I could, me. I knew if I studied and worked hard enough and managed myself appropriately, I could transform myself into someone that could you not as a council estate kid from the wrong side with features in Forbes, the Bun, and an appearance on Good Morning Britain. I have the privilege of consulting for global institutions, including the European Parliament, the Tokyo Metropolitan Government, and the Australian Federal Government. As the founder and CEO of a global branding and marketing firm, Mantra Media, and the co-founder of the international retail company, Atelier Japan, I'm proud to be able to share my unique journey. Alongside my businesses, I am dedicated to unlocking human potential and driving meaningful impact. So I have lots of different roles. There are lots of different things that I'm involved with. If you're one of many thousands of people that follow me on LinkedIn, you'll see that I've just come back from Zurich after a very cool experience, and it was great to see Atelier Japan operating there. These are some of the people that Mantra Media have supported over the last 10 years, which is a joy. I love what I do. This is some of the media. One of my goals was to be in the Japanese daily newspapers, which happened, which was awesome. And all the other stuff was just bonuses about giving value. So about my mentor. For nearly a decade, my mentor, Dave Neeshaw, is also my kryptonite. Intelligent people, caring and compassionate individuals can be those who exploit their kind, but was educated in the private sector, where he witnessed a huge amount of wasted opportunities and resources. Seeing people take their advantages for granted made him realize that happiness doesn't come from external validation, but from internal alignment with one's values. This realization drove Dave to prevent waste in all its forms, most significantly in the realm of human potential. His work has taught me that the hardest thing in the world is to accept ourselves as we truly are. The struggle to accept our own potential and the reality around us often limits our ability to be our best selves. By learning to accept yourself, you unlock a life of authenticity, fulfillment, and purpose. To be the best version of yourself, you must give yourself permission to manage your superpowers. Otherwise, they will manage you. If you're intelligent, sensitive, caring, and compassionate, you are a major asset to society. You have the power to make the world a better place, but you are also vulnerable to imposter syndrome, overwhelm, and burnout. Your job is to learn who you truly are, accept yourself, and make space to be the best version of you. Good luck on your journey. You are more capable than you realize. How are you going to give yourself permission to be the best version of you today? Choose to replace "I'm not good enough" with "I am learning and growing." Start to seek feedback, especially about things you feel you're failing at, or simply appreciate. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Johnny. Just looking at some of the comments in the questions and so on, I think everyone would agree with a fantastic talk. Really, genuinely, I think uplifting ultimately, and I think lots of things that, on the one hand, lots of us probably recognise in ourselves, but also
you've gone quiet, Nick.
Is that any better? There are a few sound issues which people have picked up in the chat. Is that any better, Johnny?
I can hear you now. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Well, yeah, lots of things that I think we can probably all reflect on in terms of things that we're, for want of a better phrase, guilty of in terms of ourselves, but also some really genuinely useful kind of tools, if you like, for overcoming some of that kind of self-doubt, as it were. So lots of questions. I've got a few questions myself, but I won't take advantage of my position as host to answer my questions first. But let's pick up on the first question. So this is a question from Lisa Volstedt. I'm also passionate about what I do. What tips do you have for managing your passion in a positive way and setting boundaries?
Oh, beautiful talk. Thank you so much for the question. You know you better than anyone else, and no one knows you as well as you know you. sometimes the most obvious things aren't obvious to us. You know when you're going beyond your capacity. If you are at risk of continually burning out or going beyond your capacity, I would suggest you create moments to really understand when that's happening and how it's happening. There is a technique. If you can give yourself 10 minutes of silence in the morning without any distraction, and 10 minutes when you finish your workday, whenever that may be, just to reflect on how you are feeling and whether tomorrow works for you, the schedule that you have, that's useful. We often don't take the time to realize when we're at risk of letting our passions overcome us. Because again, our superpowers can become our kryptonite. So I think giving yourself space to analyze the patterns that you currently have and being able to see and record the moments of when you are tipping to the point of, I'm looking at a screen and nothing is coming back to me. Or I had a conversation, but I forgot all the words. Or I'm usually able to access a really good vocabulary, and today nothing is coming through. There are signs that you are doing things beyond your capacity. So set up a system for you to be able to know yourself better than you know yourself today, and you'll understand on my terms what is best for me and how much. And we all have our own limits, and it could be diversity as well. Diversity of what you're asking your brain to do.
Fantastic. Yeah, absolutely. I think checking in with ourselves regularly is something that I think is sometimes quite difficult, isn't it, under a pressurized environment. So I think it's really, really important. An interesting point, and I thought this was an interesting point, and this question from Denise Dale. You used the phrase aim to be lazy, which I think I like, finding the most efficient way to be. It's more of a comment, I think, from Denise, but I think it's probably worth framing as a question, really. This I guess this tension, if you like, between efficiency and effectiveness, and I guess that implicit in that notion of efficiency, and I just wondered if is that idea of effectiveness. So I just wondered if you had any kind of reflection on that, how to find a balance.
If you are extremely capable and competent, you are always at risk of over-analysis. Overthinking is not useful because you can find yourself in spirals, and there is no end to the hole, or it takes a long time to get to the bottom before you can start building yourself back up and realize that all these worries and concerns that you have been concentrating on don't exist. In this present moment, this room is not on fire. It could be, and I'm sure there are lots of ways that could potentially happen. But in this moment, the room is not on fire. Is it useful that I am concerned about it in this moment? Potentially not. But if I start to focus on that, it starts to become my reality. And I will analyze and I will think about that infinitum until the point where I don't want to enter the room anymore. This is how we create fears and unsubstantiated fears. I don't want to walk into that lift. Why? Because it might do this. Yes, you could take the Stoic approach. All the things might happen at some point, but have they? And do you live in a future that is unwritten or a past that you can't really go back to? And I'm sure we all want to be Marty McFly, but it's very difficult. So you can only have now. So I would say reflective practice is useful. If you are one of those overthinkers, if someone uses the phrase, enjoy a lazy approach, I imagine you won't then become a lazy person. You will then start to look for efficiencies instead and probably be more productive at something else, because that's the way that kind of brain operates.
Thank you, Johnny. Really useful, again, useful things to bear in mind. A question from Paranshil about, I guess, I suppose it's a question about that, understanding where there is a gap in terms of someone's competence or capabilities or skills. So there could be some scenarios where we actually lack, say, in a very specific skill. How can we find out if this is imposter syndrome, or whether we actually have some gaps to cover? Is there a framework to distinguish?
It's really easy. It's called being honest with yourself. We all know whether we've done the work to understand the thing that we're meant to understand. And we all know if we haven't done the work. So if we are in a room and people are talking about a particular subject and you don't understand the terminology because you've not done the work to get to that point, great, there is an opportunity for growth. Embrace it. Embrace that you can enjoy acquiring new skills and new vocabulary. This is a beautiful challenge because there is something called the Dunning-Kruger effect, which is Dunning-Kruger, two psychologists, did lots of work on analysing the way people behave in leadership. And what they found is the more you know, the more you know what you don't know, which means your confidence level lowers and your competence level just keeps going up. And the opposite is also true. So the less you know about a subject, the less you know what you don't know, and therefore the more confident you are about what you do know, because you don't know what you don't. And this is all ties to this. People who are who think intensely, who think about their own existence, the way that they show up in the world, whether they are competent. If you are questioning your competence, that probably means you're not one of those people who are more confident than competent. So again, it's about, are you being honest with yourself? Because the truth is obvious to you, and it will be obvious to how you feel in that moment when you ask that question of yourself. But the trap to get ourselves out of is, what level of competence is appropriate in this scenario? Everyone is an expert in a room. Depends on the room, or it depends how many different skills are in that room, but everyone is an expert in their own way. So it's understanding within the context what you're bringing to the table and if it is appropriate, and you will know that.
Great, thank you, Johnny. We've got a lot of questions, so we probably won't get through them all, but I'll do my best to paraphrase them. And one particularly interesting reflection, I think this is from Julia Bacik, which I think is probably not only for someone starting on a PhD and the kind of, I'll read it kind of as much as I can. So such great tips, Johnny. Thank you. My question is, in a few months, I'm going to be starting my PhD. I must say I did not expect to be picked nor even considered from the 600 applicants. I think that's fertile ground for that sort of sense of imposter syndrome, kind of why me and so on. Yet, while I'm beyond happy, I simply can't believe it. And sometimes I feel that the PhD committee thinks I'm better than I actually am because I see so many flaws in myself. I have this overwhelming feeling that I absolutely have to read everything on the topic beforehand because I don't want anyone to think they made a mistake in choosing me. It's overwhelming, and I don't know what steps I should take to believe that I actually did deserve this. I think it's a really interesting insight, and I think probably a reflection, even, whether it's an undergraduate program, postgraduate program, new job, those sorts of things. I think that's probably something that we can all relate to. So any thoughts on that?
I think it's time to learn a new skill. And I'm going to call this skill being kind to yourself. When we overjudge ourselves and we criticize ourselves, we open ourselves up to have the same approach to how we engage with others and the world around us, which makes us unhelpful participants for ourselves and others. I would say if we can be kinder to ourselves, I'm here, perhaps that means I deserve to be here. I would ask useful questions. Again, your use of language will change how you think about the world, and that will change how you feel about the world, and then how you behave will be the consequence of all of that good stuff. If you can start to ask yourself questions like, how can I enjoy this process? Or, I imagine I deserve this. Or, I'll ask you a question. Could you imagine enjoying the process that you're better than you realize? There is an awkwardness to psychologically useful language. It doesn't sound natural because it's not. because you have to interrupt patterns. And sometimes grammatically it sounds a bit strange. And that's okay, as long as it gets you to where you need to be. I would focus on enjoying that you deserve to be where you are in this moment. And imagine that all the criteria that was created to put you in this position means that you're meant to be here. And again, the kinder you are to yourself, the kinder you will be to others and in the way you engage in the world. And I imagine, if you're a thoughtful, caring person, that you want to show up being kind. And the way to do that is to first be kind to yourself.
And I think that's something that's clear from the chat. Hopefully you're having a chat there, an opportunity to look through the chat. That's something that clearly resonates. I think that simple piece of advice, to be kind to yourself in the first instance, but also the further reflections on the talk. And I think that universally find it very kind of inspiring. We still have lots more questions. Comment there from Layla. Great talk, just what I needed, which is lovely to hear. Interesting question for Sarah Whitmore. Really interesting talk, thank you. I've noticed that all of the comments were by women, and I suspect that those who experience imposter syndrome are disproportionately female. The question is, can you tell us what proportion of participants today are male? I would have to do a very quick tally. We've got, I think at one point we had 125 people, but I guess if you've got any reflections on that, I guess the gender dimension of imposter syndrome and so on.
So it is. I have illumination. The cultural context in which we live. If everyone here is based in the UK, there are barriers to attainment. I've experienced a couple of them. I grew up extremely poor in a very unhelpful background. And having a foreign last name wasn't helpful either. And I had lots of feedback on that before I came self-employed. And lots of questions that you could imagine were quite derogatory. We live in a society that is somewhat poorly. We have a cultural context that doesn't work. I'll give you an example of this. So one of our associates here, she is wonderfully talented, has incredible skills. Yet outside of the work that we work with her on, she doesn't get any of the work. Yet she's one of the best in her field, by a long shot. Her capabilities on strategy and implementation and how you build businesses, across territories is amazing. Now, why is that? Well, context. So I said to her, when she was contemplating this, I said, imagine a world in where one of the most, let's say, unhelpful human beings on the planet is elected to be president of one of the world's most powerful nations. You might know who I'm talking about. Only in that context would somebody as talented and brilliant as yourself wouldn't be appreciated. And when we go to a micro scale, we see this even intensify. So we have lots of entrepreneurial groups here. We have lots of online groups as well for starter businesses and things like that. And we are wonderfully diverse. So we attract more women in business, we attract more people from diverse backgrounds, ethnicities, etc., than any other group in this city. Why is that? I think part of it is the fact that we have a business that says ethics in highlighted bold letters in everything we do and in our mission statement. I think we've created a culture, an ecosystem around us, which is that you are accepted. And I think I recently did a piece of analysis for a global client recently, looking at the top 70 turnover businesses in the UK across sectors. And I think there was only 2 female CEOs. Just letting that digest. And then I looked at CFOs, and there was a tiny bit more diversity in CFOs. But then when you went down to the people doing the work, so not the people who are at the top going, yeah, do the thing, people doing the work, women exponentially increased in numbers. So there is a challenge. We do live in a culture in which there are biases and internalized biases. So some people will behave in particular ways and don't understand why they're behaving that way. But again, if we strip down the barriers and we go, okay, well, this is a society that we operate in. We have to work with it because it's our only option. We can't change anything. We have to first be happy with who we are, how we show up in the world, and then we can hopefully affect the world around us in a positive way by bringing the best version of ourselves on our terms. One of the ways we can do that is by having strict boundaries about the way people engage with us, accepting, understanding what you're willing to or not willing to accept, and being open about that. But yes, it is very difficult in this country to be a female founder or a woman generally, in my perspective. After the Sarah Everard case, which was profoundly tragic, lots of my colleagues and associates explained all the different ways in which they had to manage their environment to be safe. Things that most men would not even consider. And again, a lot of this is about understanding. It's about being introspective and then having empathy, understanding how other people have to operate within this context to just get somewhere. It's a big challenge. There's lots of parts to it, but it's something that I'm also passionate about.
Great, thank you, Johnny. I'm very conscious of time, and I want to pick up on two areas which I think have come up in some of the subsequent questions. And one is around, and you've touched upon it there actually, which one is around leadership within organisations, and I suppose more widely, management, leadership, and educators really. So, I guess what for you is it? What can we take away from what you've said that we can put into practice as leaders, as managers, as future leaders within organisations and so on, or indeed educators that are dealing with students, given what you've said about the importance of feedback and the way in which, you know, some of those sorts of things become internalised positively or negatively? What are the kind of, you know, how do we shape leadership that just enables people to become the best version of themselves?
You have to go against the paradigm a little bit. And you have to focus on relationship rather than transaction. So what do I mean by that? In collectivistic cultures around the world, they are relational. How does what I think, say, do affect the world around me and the people around me in the room? In a transactional society, which is very Western, we operate on a very much, what are you going to do for me and what am I going to do for you? Which is not useful because it ends curiosity. And if without curiosity, we don't get empathy. So I would say the best way as leaders and people who just want to engage in an authentic way with the world around them is embrace empathy by being profoundly curious. Be curious about yourself. Not all your thoughts are useful. We all have intrusive thoughts. Some things you will think and you'll be like, that was a weird thought. Don't worry about it. Your brain is complex and it will sometimes do strange things. This doesn't reflect you. It just reflects this really old system that we've got that it's maybe not as appropriate as we'd like it to be. So I would say be relational. Understand when you're being transactional. Because if you're relational, then you create an ecosystem around you where people go, actually, I'm going to do this thing for you. Not because I want anything back, but actually just because it's good. It's good for us to help each other. It's good for us to have a great relationship and be there for one another and support one another. That's what this should come down to. Because when you learn to love yourself, when you learn to be the best version of you on your terms, respecting your own boundaries, you will show up in the world as a better version of you, the best version of you, because you will love this, and you will have more capacity to love the world around you and be focused on your relationships rather than transactions.
Fantastic. That's great. I really like. I think being curious is an incredibly underrated quality. I think that's really helpful. One final question, and it relates to that, and it comes from a question from Karen Cripps in the business school. And I've thought a lot about this when we thought about the future of higher education programs and so on. And there's long been a focus on supporting personal development and so on through employability and all of those sorts of things. But I guess I think given all the technological change, like rapidly things change and knowledge becomes obsolete and so on. What do you think the most important thing we can do within higher education to help build people's to understand the power of vulnerability, but also to make them resilient and to make them curious? Is there anything that I'd love there as a silver bullet, but any thoughts on that?
There's a silver bullet. There is. It's called self-esteem. Everything comes from self-esteem. If you have a high self-esteem, acceptance is easier. Self-esteem is the magic bullet. If you have high self-esteem, you'll notice in times where you feel good about you and something doesn't work, and you don't get that bummed about it. You just kind of like, okay, move on to the next thing. But when your self-esteem is low and exactly the same thing could happen, you are deflated. Self-esteem. If you can ask questions that increase the self-esteem of students, they will start to show up better. They will start to be a better version of themselves because they'll start to believe that they have value in the world, and they'll start to trust their opinions and their ideas and start to believe in actually the things that they thought were maybe faraway dreams of actually being able to create those realities. Self-esteem is massively underrated. And if we can start from that place, then all the other things that come after can help. But it's all about language use. Ask questions that help other people's self-esteem. Don't just do it at work. Do it at home. Do it to every human being that you meet.
Perfect. Thank you, Johnny. I mean, we could talk for at least another hour, I think, with the questions that we've got and the comments that have come through in the chat. And as I say, I hope you've had a chance to kind of look through some of the comments. They're incredibly positive and completely understandable, because it was a fantastic talk. And thank you for your reflections on some really big issues, ultimately, whether it's the experience of women in organisations and in society more widely, but also within, how we as leaders, managers and future leaders and educators and so on can help both ourselves, but also others as well. So I'm sure I'm not alone in saying a huge thank you to you for your time this morning and for your insights. I really, really appreciate it. And John has included his LinkedIn, link to his LinkedIn profile if anyone wants to connect. Lots of people wanting to connect with you in one way or another. So I'm sure you'll have lots of questions coming through to you that way.
Nick, will I be able to see the transcript as well, just for useful feedback?
Absolutely, yes. I should get emailed that with the Zoom. So yeah, absolutely.
No, sorry, not the transcript, the webinar chat.
Yes, yeah. I will find a way before I close the meeting. Then I'll find a way to do that. But yeah, thank you very much again. Thank you everyone for attending. It's great to have so many people in the room. I'm sure you've got a huge amount out of that as well. So thanks again, Johnny, and we will connect after this as well.
Brilliant. Thanks so much, Nick. Thank you, everybody. Go and be the best version of you.